You can draw this in Procreate. During this easy step-by-step drawing tutorial for Procreate, I will show you exactly how you can draw your own Chibi boy character. I will take you by the hand, I won't speed up anything, explain everything in a simple way, and you can either follow the steps exactly and give your character the same clothing, same hair, or you can use this tutorial as a rough guide and add your own touches to your character, of course. For this tutorial, we're working on a canvas that is 2,500 pixels by 2,500 pixels. And of course, I have linked a free color palette in the description. So if you're ready, let's get started. We'll start out by drawing a circle, and we will use the monoline brush for that. It's under calligraphy, and for the color, we'll use the third color in the first row. I have the opacity of the brush at 100%, and the size is at 30. And then let's draw a circle. We'll draw it right here in the center. Hold your pen in place, and you can tap one finger on the screen for a perfectly round circle. And then to make sure that our circle is in the center of our canvas, we'll go to the Move and Transform tool. That's the little arrow up here. Make sure you have snapping turned on, and then you can move it like this until you see that orange yellow line. And then you can tap the arrow again, and now we are going to turn on symmetry. So let's go to the wrench, then to canvas, then turn on the drawing guide, go to edit drawing guide, and then tap symmetry, and then tap done. Now let's drag in the color first. And now we are going to use the liquify tool to shape this face. So let's go to the magic wand, then to liquify. Set it to push with distortion and momentum set to none. And we can play around with the size, for example, at like 60%. And then we can pull the chin down and make like a jawline here. So we can push and pull so that we get a little chin here. And we can push the sides a little bit to make like a longer face. And you can also play around with the size of the brush, make it a bit smaller, like around 45%. Push the jawline until it looks something like this. This is our face shape. And then just tap the magic wand to get out of here. Next, we are going to make a layer for the neck and for like part of the body. So let's go to the layer menu, tap the plus, drag this layer underneath the head, and tap the layer to turn on Drawing Assist. And then for the color, let's pick something that is slightly different from this color. So we'll go for the fourth color in the first row. And then we'll start about here and make a line like this going down, and make sure the shape is closed at the top. And then just drag in the color. Now on this same layer, we can also make ears. Let's just make a rounded shape over here. Close it, and then drag in the color. And now we have the base for our chibi boy. And now we are going to decide where the facial features will be. And to do that, we are going to make some guidelines. First, we need a new layer. So let's go to the layer menu, tap this one, and then tap the plus. And then for your brush, you can go for a sketching brush, for instance. We can go to sketching. And for instance, pick the 6B pencil or whatever pencil you like. We are just going to create guidelines. And you can grab black, for instance. I have the opacity of this brush at 100% and the size is at 30. And now let's make a horizontal line across the center of the face. And you can tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly horizontal. Then we'll make another one halfway between the chin and this line, and then we'll use that same distance roughly and make another line over here. So now we have divided the face in equal parts. The first thing we'll add are the eyes. Let's go ahead and make a new layer on top of the face here. Let's tap the plus, and let's lower the opacity of our lines. Let's set them to like 30%. And for this new layer, let's also turn on Drawing Assist so we can use the symmetry tool and just make one eye and have the other one magically appear on the other side. It'll save us work. Then for our brush, let's go back to our monoline brush. And for the color, we'll use this one. First color in the second row. And I will draw circle or oval, something like this. Drag in the color. And then we'll go to the liquify tool again under the magic wand. And we can push and pull and create a nice shape for the eye. I'd like to push it a little bit here. So let's go for something that's not exactly like circular. Then tap the magic wand again to get out of there. And now let's add the irises and pupils. Again, we'll make a new layer. So let's go to the layer menu, tap the plus, set this layer to drawing assist so we can use symmetry. And for the color, we'll use this one, 9th color in the first row. And again, we'll make a circular shape, something like this. Hold your pen in place. And you can use edit at the top to move it around a little bit. Have a little bit more space at the top and less at the bottom. Go for something like this and then drag in the color. For the next step, let's make the eyebrows and the mouth. We'll make a new layer again. So let's go to the layer menu, tap the plus, set the new layer to drawing assist. And now for the brush, I'd like to go to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. With this brush, if you are using a pen with pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become. And then for the color, let's go for this one. For our eyebrows, the 8th color in the first row. And let's zoom in a little bit. Now for this brush, the opacity is at 100% and I'll set the size to 10%. And then let's use this guideline, this top guideline, and roughly make that eyebrow through that line. Something like this. We can go in, make it a bit more tidy. A shape like this. And of course, you can use the eraser to make it more crisp. You can tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to the studio pen. And let's set the size to 10% here as well. And then you can just carve the eyebrow. Maybe that was a bit too much. Let's go for something like this. Then for the mouth, we'll stick with this layer, but let's change the color to this one. It's a bit less harsh than the almost black color. So we'll go for the 7th color in the first row. And for the mouth, we'll stick with this line. For the corner of the mouth, we'll look at the side of the eye here and imagine a line going down and then go slightly to the center. Make a little bump like this, and then we'll make a curve. And for me, it's easier to do it like this from this angle. And we'll make a slight curve like this to give our character a nice smile. So these are roughly the proportions that you can use when creating a chibi character. The important thing is to create these big eyes because that is what makes these characters look cute. Now let's dive in and let's work on the eyes more. We can actually continue working on this layer. Let's first grab our monoline brush again under calligraphy and grab that dark color, 8th color in the first row. And now I'd like to make a little line around the iris. Let's dive in. Let's check the size. That's way too thick. Maybe 10% would be nice. Maybe even smaller. How about 5? That's a nice line. Let's follow our oval here. create this outline and then hold your pen in place. And then on the inside, we'll make the pupil. So we'll make another oval like this. Hold your pen in place. And you can use edit here at the top if you need to adjust it a little bit. Make sure that it's in the center. Let's go for something like this. And then drag in the color. Now let's switch back to our script brush. Studio pen under inking. And then let's make a line like this, a loop or curve. And now we can drag in the color here at the top. Next, we are going to create a curve from here all the way to this side. And first, at the beginning of your stroke, try to press lightly, then press harder, and then lighter again. And you can hold your pen in place for a nice smooth curve. And then again, and then lightly. So we get a nice thickness here. Then we'll make another curve that will be like that crease on top of the eye, like the upper eyelid. And that will start about here and then move to this corner, attach here. So we'll go very thinly, go down, hold your pen in place, and you can use edit here at the top to adjust it. I want it to be quite thin, something like this, and then tap the brush to get out of there. And I feel like it might be a little bit too thick over here, so we can use the eraser and then go along it and make it a bit more crisp like this. Doing great so far. Let's add even more to the eyes. And of course, at this point, we can also get rid of our guidelines. So let's go to the layer menu and let's just delete our guides. We can just slide to the left, tap delete, and now let's go to this layer and we'll tap it and turn on alpha lock. Now we can only paint on what's already there. So only on these white shapes. And then for our color, we will select this one, second color in the second row, and we will use it to add a little shadow to the eye because that upper eyelid will cast a shadow. So we'll create a curve like this towards that, like that corner of the eye, and then just color that in. Next, let's add some highlights to the eyes. To do that, we'll go back to this layer, but we will turn off drawing assist because with the highlights, they won't be symmetrical. I'm imagining light will be coming from this side and it'll hit this eye over here, and then it'll hit this eye over here as well, not on the mirrored side. It won't be hitting here. So that's why we need to turn off drawing assist. And now for the color, we'll grab this one. First color, second row. So let's create a highlight over here. Let's actually make the brush a bit bigger. Let's set it to 20%. Let's make a big highlight here and then a smaller one here. That gives a nice effect. And then here we'll do the same. Big one and a small one. You can really see how this adds life to our character. Next, let's also add some light to the iris. Light is hitting here on the eye, passing through, and then lighting at this area of the iris. So it's nice to add a little bit of light over there. To do that, we'll go back to this layer. We can keep drawing assist turned on, and let's turn alpha lock on so we won't be able to go outside of the shape. And then for the color, we'll pick this one, 10th color in the first row. And then let's just make a bit like a bean shape here, something like this. Color that in. And now, of course, our character also needs a little nose, and we'll keep it really simple. Let's first just go to our head layer. That's over here, and we can turn drawing assist off. We know where the center is. We don't need symmetry here. And then for our brush, let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, let's start with this one, fourth color in the first row. Now for this brush, set the opacity to 60% and the size at 3. And then create the nose, or well, almost like a shadow of the nose, or like roughly the area of the nose in between the mouth and the eyes. So that's about here. We'll create a little pink area. Like I said, we're keeping it very simple. And now we'll add a darker shade, this fifth color in the first row. And let's make our brush even smaller, like a 2%. And then we'll make a smaller shape here, just a little oval shape. That's enough to create a cute button nose. For the next step, we are going to give our character some clothing. Let's zoom out a little bit. And then we'll make a layer that is on top of the neck area, but underneath the face. So let's go to the layer menu, tap this one, and then tap the plus. And let's turn on drawing assist so we can create something symmetrical. And for the brush, let's go back to the inking brushes to the studio pen. And for the color, let's use this one. First color in the third row. And I want to create a vest, like a hoodie vest. And to do that, let's start about here and create a shape like this. Then let's make a line like this. Let's imagine the hoodie, a little curve here. And then we'll go like this. We'll close the shape. And of course we are covering the neck right now, but don't worry, we will fix that later. Let's drag in the color. Then let's make a layer underneath. We'll tap this one and tap the plus. Set that layer to drawing assist as well. And for the color, we'll pick this one. Second color in the third row. And then we'll make like the shoulder area here. A little bit wobbly. And go behind here. And drag in the color. Next, we'll create a t-shirt. So let's make a new layer underneath these two. Let's go here, then tap the plus. And for the color, grab this one. Second color in the second row. And also make sure to turn on drawing assist on your layer. And then let's make a curve like this. And then down here, make a closed shape and drag in the color. Now let's go back in and fix this area over here around the neck. First, we'll go to the layer menu. Let's go to this layer over here, and let's add a little bit of that blue over here actually. Let's go and grab this color again. First color in the third row. And let's go in here and add a bit of blue here around that t-shirt. Then we'll go to this layer. We'll tap it and use select. Make sure to turn off color fill so you don't get like blue ears. So make sure that's turned off. Now that neck area is selected and we can go back to this layer. We can grab the eraser and then erase that part. So that we get a nice clean area. And now you can tap the selection tool again to get out of there. The next thing our character needs is hair. And just like with the facial features, let's first create a little guide for ourselves. So let's go and grab that sketching brush again, that 6B pencil, and just grab a dark color like this one, or go for black, whatever. And then let's make a layer on top of the others. Let's go to the top here, tap the plus, and then here let's first like roughly create the shape that we want for the hair. And of course, you don't have to go for this particular hairstyle. Feel free to create whatever hairstyle you like. You can look up inspiration online, but it's a good idea to first just sketch out the big shape. Now I want the hair to have quite some volume, going up like to here. And also I wanted to cover a bit of the face. Maybe here there's a little indent. So it can be something like this. And try to give it that nice volume at the top. Hair has volume. It doesn't stick to the skull unless it's super short. But let's just give him a nice hairdo, nice and big. And I will go to the layer menu. We'll lower the opacity of this. Let's set it to 20% or 18, whatever. Then tap the plus for a new layer. And for our brush, we'll go back to the inking brushes, use the studio pen, and for the color, we'll use this one. Third color in the second row. And I'll just go in and create shapes for the hair. We can make these pointy parts, maybe cover the eyebrow. Maybe even more than this. And then we can go along the face, along the ear. And then over here, we can have these pointy parts also covering the eyebrow a bit. Along the ear. Then move on here. Try to vary it a bit, making long parts and some smaller, some pointing upward, especially here at the top. Over here we'll have this part. You can have some points here. Make some hair like sticking out. Something like this. So we have followed our rough sketch and now we can actually delete it. So let's go here, slide to the left, tap delete, then go back to this layer and drag in the color. Now you might need to adjust your color drop threshold by sliding to the right. And you might have to use continue filling at the top to fill any gaps. Like this. And then tap the brush to get out of here. And I feel like he has a pretty nice hairdo. We can tidy it up a little bit. Like over here, I see a little bump. And we can make the tips a bit more crisp. We can do that by using the eraser and by going along these pointy parts. Tidying up the hair. And sometimes if you go too far, you can just go back to the brush and cover that up. And just go along all of these hairs until you have a nice crisp effect. Here we can tidy up the ear area. We can do that by going to the ear layer and selecting that. So tap it, tap select, then go back to the hair, use the eraser, and then go in here and just tidy this up. And over here, tidy this up. And then turn off the selection and continue working on those pointy parts. tidying up the hair. You can also see a little gap over here, so we can grab the brush, fill that in. Try to keep an eye out for those kind of things. Then over here, almost there. Yeah, I think this looks good. By the way, we can also turn off our symmetry line at this point, of course. We can go to the wrench, then to canvas, turn off the drawing guide, so that doesn't distract us anymore. Now, before we continue refining our character, let's add a nice background. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. Let's drag it to the bottom. Then I'd like to add this color, second color in the first row. And then I'd like to add a gradient. But of course, you can also go for a different type of gradient, different color. Do whatever you like at this point. I'll go for the first color in the first row and grab the airbrushing brush, the soft brush. And then at the top, we'll add this darker blue. Let's make the brush a bit bigger. 15%. Let's set the opacity to 80. Let's go over here and add that darker blue using light pressure. Adding that, and to soften this gradient, you can go to the magic wand, then to Gaussian blur, and then with your pen on the screen, you can slide to the right to soften it. I'll go for 20%, and then just tap the magic wand again to get out of there, and let's continue working on our character. Let's start with the face. Let's go to the face layer, and let's first turn on alpha lock. And then let's grab the soft brush, well, we already have it, and let's use this color first, fourth color in the first row. Now let's check the size. That's actually nice. Let's go over the forehead, a little bit over the cheeks, bit like this, and then let's go and grab, well, let's stick with this color actually, and let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 7%, or maybe smaller, 5, and let's create these rosy cheeks, making multiple strokes like this. And then let's grab the studio pen again under inking, and let's grab a darker color, this one, or no, actually this one, sorry, fifth color in the first row. And let's add like some shadow along the hair. Just something like this, the hair casting a shadow on the forehead. Now we can also add a little bit of shadow on the upper eyelid. Just a tiny touch. Maybe make this one a little bit bigger. Something like this. And then I'd like to grab a brush from my Procreate treasure chest. If you don't already have it, go to freefromflow.com to get it. It's full of really lovely brushes. And we'll use the round chalk pencil. Opacity is at 100%. I have the size at, let's set it to 50. And now let's make these lines here for its, well, for the rosy cheeks, and then here as well. I hope you're having fun so far. Now, I just want to let you know that if you want to take your drawing and painting skills in Procreate to that next level, then I've got you covered at my Patreon. I have more than 200 Procreate tutorials there, and they really range from beginner to more advanced, and I cover a whole lot of styles, including character drawing, landscape painting, painting realism, and a lot more. So go check that out. It would be great to see you there, but now let's continue. Next, I'd like to add some outlines. Let's go to our studio pen again under inking. And let's first go for this color, 6th color in the first row. And I'd like to go along the edge, add a bit of this color, something like this. Then let's go for this color. That's the 7th color in the first row. Sorry, 7th color over here. And let's first add a little line here for the nose. And then let's go along the edge, a little bit thinner. And also here. You can make the brush a little bit smaller, 10%. And create a nice little outline. Along here and this side. Then let's move to the neck area. Let's first turn off Drawing Assist and let's turn on Alpha Lock. And then for our color, let's first make the skin lighter with this 3rd color in the first row. We can drop it in like this. And then we'll switch to this color, 4th color, and let's use the soft brush again, just for a little bit, like a gradient. Here at the top and here. Then we'll go to the studio pen again under inking. And we'll grab this color, 5th color in the first row. And let's go in here and create a shape like this. Let's just color that in. And a little shadow here. And let's do the same here. So a little semicircle and a curve here. Then the same over here. Let's make a little shadow. That is, well, it's the chin is casting a shadow, or the entire head. And then let's go darker. Let's use this color, 6th color in the first row for an even a darker shadow. Something like this. Then let's use this color again, 7th color in the first row for a little outline, but also a little shape here. Let's go for something like this and a line like this to shape that ear. Then let me rotate and create a little outline. Then over here, 2 lines like this, and then the outline along the edge. And we can do the same for the neck. Next, let's move to the clothing. Let's go to the shirt first. Let's turn off Drawing Assist and turn on Alpha Lock. First, I'd like to make this lighter. Let's use this color, 1st color in the 2nd row. Let's drop that in. And then let's add a bit of a gradient. We'll go to the airbrush, to the soft brush again, and then go back to that light blue, 2nd color in the 2nd row. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger, 10%, and add a bit of that blue here, a little bit here. And then let's go back to the studio pen under inking with this color. And then let's add shadow here along that vest. And a little bit over here. Then for the outline, let's use this one, 2nd color in the 3rd row. And then let's go here along that edge, over here as well. will also make an extra line. Start here. And we can make it like a broken line. Something like this. Then for the hoodie, let's go to this layer first. Let's tap it, turn off Drawing Assist, and turn on Alpha Lock. And then, let's first make a layer on top. Let's tap the plus, set this layer to a clipping mask so that whatever we draw here, it will only show up on this layer. And I'm doing this instead of working on this layer directly, because first I want to make some lines defining this hoodie a bit more, and then underneath on this layer I'd like to add the gradient and add the extra light. If I would make the lines on here, then I wouldn't be able to add any of those gradients underneath the lines anymore. So let's first make those lines. We'll do that with this color, third color in the third row. And let's first start over here, and then we'll continue this line and create a curve over here, something like this. And then we'll do the same over here. We can start here, make a curve that goes behind the head. Maybe we can continue downward, and we can make a line over here, an outline. And over here as well. Not too thick. Then we'll also make an edge over here and here. And we can add some more of these creases, these curves. Also over here, following that roundness of that hoodie. Something like this. Now let's do the same for this part, this layer. Now let's first turn off Drawing Assist and turn on Alpha Lock for this area as well. And then again, we'll tap the plus for a new layer, which we'll set to clipping mask. Then let's first create that outline like this, and then let's make a line over here for like a sleeve. Then over here. You can play around with the thickness of the lines and then create something like this here. Maybe there's a crease over here. I feel like this one might be a bit too far to the left, so we can just erase it with the eraser. Go back to the brush. Let me place it about here. And now we can go in and add more color variety. Let's start over here. Let's grab the soft brush first under airbrushing and grab this color. Second color in the third row. And let's add that to the inside. Adding a bit of a shadow, also a bit underneath here. And then for this layer, we can switch to that lighter color, first color in the third row, and then add some lighter touches there. And then with the Studio Pen under inking, we can add more definition here. Let's first go to the hoodie area again and add some lighter touches. Maybe some light is hitting here. And also on top here, we can light up that top area. And maybe underneath there will be, well, not maybe, there will be a darker area, a shadow. Let's first add a little bit of light here. And then let me switch to the darker color, second color in the third row. And then over here we can add that shadow. So first we had like the soft areas with the soft brush, soft transitions, and now you can add some crisper, more defined shadows to give that suggestion of creases here. That's nice. Then for the bottom part, let's go here. Let's first add some shadow areas like here for that arm. Maybe a shadow here. There's like a fold. You can go here. Maybe one here. And then let's also add some highlights, some lighter areas with this color, second color in the second row. Look over here where the light is hitting. And then on this layer, you can add some light here on this edge. And also over here. Then I'd also like to add some strings. Let's put those on a layer on top of these. Let's tap the plus, and then let's grab this color, first color in the second row, and let's make them come out here. Make them a bit wiggly, and over here. And then we'll turn on alpha lock on this layer. Let's first add a bit of this second color in the second row, a light blue. Add a bit of a shadow side like this, and over here on the right side. And then a little outline with this color, third color in the third row. Let's go in here and gently go along the outside, creating a very thin outline. Over here as well. Well, that's a bit too thick, perhaps. And on this side. There. Now all we need to do is add more detail to the hair. Let's go to the top layer and let's tap the plus for a new layer on top. And then let's grab this color, fourth color in the second row, and for the brush, we'll stick with the studio pen. And also to keep all these layers together and to make sure that all the hair will stay inside of the shape, we are going to tap this layer and turn on clipping mask. And now let's create extra shapes for the hair like this. We are going to add extra things, something like this, and then we can drag in the color. And let's do the same on this side. For instance, something like this. Maybe it's attached here. Then let's drag in the color. So we have these shapes. Then we'll tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then we'll go to the soft brush and switch to that darker color, that third color in the second row. And let's go over here to gently fade this. So the ends are a bit light, but the inner part is dark. And also, of course, you can use the eraser if you want to make these parts more crisp. Just like the outer parts of the hair. You can just go in here, make these more crisp, like this. And we are going to make multiple layers of this. So now we'll tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask as well, and then make more shapes. So we'll go back to the studio pen. We'll grab that lighter color again, fourth color in the second row, and make even more shapes. just create a bunch of them. Maybe one like here. And over here. Something like this. You do need to make sure that your shapes are closed. Otherwise, your color will spill all over. Or sometimes you just need to adjust the color drop threshold by sliding to the left. Now let's use the eraser for some crispness, which always sounds a bit like Christmas when I say it. And over here. Then again, we'll turn on alpha lock. We'll grab the soft brush and that darker color again, third color in the second row, and darken that center part again. And then again, we'll tap the plus for a new layer, set it to clipping mask, grab the studio pen again under inking, grab that lighter color, fourth color in the second row, and make more shapes. Going smaller and smaller, more towards that center. Drag in the color. Of course, you can also use continue filling. Then grab the eraser, make it more crisp. And then again, use alpha lock on the layer, grab the soft brush, grab the darker color, third color in the second row, and then fade that center part. Next, I'd also like to add a lighter touch to the base hair. Let's tap this layer, turn on alpha lock, then grab that lighter color, fourth color in the second row, and go over the hair, the outer parts, adding a lighter touch like this. And then at this point, you could merge this together. You can pinch them together like this. Then let's tap the plus for a new layer, set that to clipping mask as well. Oh, and by the way, you can also pinch other layers together as well if you are happy with them. If you don't want to change anything, then it's safe to pinch them together. Now let's add some highlights with this fifth color in the second row. And we'll go back to the studio pen. And let's add some highlights to parts of the hair and make it these pointy highlights. Almost like lightning bolts. So something like this. And here you can make some that are a bit bigger. And for these, try to add some of these like pointy parts. And here. And of course, again, you can use the eraser to add more pointiness. Just go along these parts, adding that crispness. around here. Let's go for something like this. Now I'd like to blur this just a little bit. Let's go to the magic wand, then to Gaussian blur, slide to the right to like 2%. And then let's go to the eraser, then the soft brush, set the eraser to the soft brush, and then let's just fade some parts a little bit. Gently fade them into the hair like this. Now let's add an extra touch of warmth to the hair, adding like a bit more variety. So let's tap the plus for a new layer, set it to clipping mask, and then let's grab this color, a sixth color in the first row, and we are going to use it to add a bit of warmth to the hair. We'll grab the soft brush under airbrushing, and then we'll go over the lower area a bit, adding that warmth. This is a little bit much, but we can just tap the end, slide to the left, and set it to 50%, for instance. Then finally, let's tap the plus, set that new layer to clipping mask, and on this layer, we'll add some outlines for the hair. So we'll go back to our inking brush, to the studio pen, and for the color, we'll grab this one. Third color in the second row. And then let's just go along the outlines. But not just along the outside, also here. Those shapes that we have created. And we can add extra lines, extra touches to the hair, extra texture. Extra parts here perhaps. And this is easier than drawing the hair in the first place, because now we already have like this guide. These shapes are already guiding us. Now we can just add extra touches, making lines a bit longer. So here we can follow that line. We can just do that for all of the hair. And in some areas, it'll be more prominent than in others, depending on how dark the area is. Here we can extend this line. Here as well, extend that line, adding more and more texture, adding extra lines. And we'll go all the way around. Here we can also add an extra line. Just follow like the curves of the hair. And here you can barely see it, but it's there, it's subtle. Extra line here. We're almost there. Don't forget this one. Didn't like those lines that much. Fortunately, there's the undo option. And also these lines, they are on a separate layer, so you can also use the eraser on them if you would like to erase parts. And there you have a nice and easy hairdo for your character, and we can call him finished. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial.